Let everyone reading this know this. This is more than just a hearing. This was one of the most striking moments of a Senate hearing that was watched live by millions and has been officially recorded. The director of America's leading intelligence agency faced critical questions under oath. Be sure to watch the video all the way through so you don't miss any details of this oversight process. It was past 10 a.m. in the Senate Intelligence Committee's stark, cold, and brightly lit hearing room. Director Kash Patel was seated at the witness stand, just as he had done countless times before. His lawyers were by his side again. The black briefcases were there again. The pre-prepared answers were there again. A defense strategy ready for every question and every issue. This went on for 2 hours. Republican senators stood behind him. Democrats tried to corner him. He parried them. Routine, predictable, boring, until Adam Schiff took the stand. And this much is clear. Schiff didn't ask questions he didn't know the answers to. Never. That was simply not his style. He was a former federal prosecutor not to be taken lightly. He'd prosecuted RICO cases against criminal organizations for years. He was a prosecutor who'd served as lead prosecutor in an indictment against a sitting president. He'd spent a month and a half preparing that manila-colored file sitting on his desk, that important file marked with red confidentiality strips. Patel noticed the document. His eyes drifted there for just a moment, but that was enough. Schiff began to speak. His tone was calm and composed. He had the air of someone who had made up his mind. Director Patel, I have a few questions regarding the Epstein case. A tense atmosphere suddenly filled the room. The name Epstein now created tension wherever it was mentioned, but Patel believed he was prepared. He took a deep breath. He straightened his posture. He maintained his official composure. Schiff continued. Director, could you explain to this committee the process for handling high-priority cases at the FBI? What is the procedure? This was the start of an unusual question. It was technical and dry in tone. It seemed harmless. Patel relaxed. Everything was going according to plan. All investigation files are compiled by field agents, he said. High-profile cases are elevated to the director's level. The most critical files, however, come directly to me, and I review them personally. Schiff nodded in agreement, with a calm, measured, and thoughtful demeanor. Important files come to you. You review them personally. Is that correct? Correct, said Patel. Yes, good. Schiff let that single word hang in the air, and with that word, the trap snapped shut. If you consider the Epstein investigation to be a significant case, absolutely, Patel said, cutting him off. This case is significant. Then the entire file has been presented to you. Isn't that right? Patel hesitated for just a split second, but Schiff caught it. Some parts of the file were sent to me in summary form. Just summaries. There was genuine surprise in Schiff's tone, or perhaps perfectly feigned surprise. At that moment, it didn't matter which it was. In one of the most extensive, high-priority investigations in American history, the FBI director had access to the case file only through summary reports, not witness statements, not field findings, only summaries. Patel defended himself. The details are evaluated by experts in the field. I look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture, said Schiff. I see. According to this picture, in January 2025, during your tenure, the FBI conducted an internal review of the Epstein files. Is that correct? Patel spoke with a slight squint. I don't recall the exact dates. Let me refresh your memory. Schiff picked up the document. January 15th, 2025, an investigation conducted in your office identified 47 names of high-profile individuals in the Epstein files. The room fell silent. 47 people. Hundreds of people hearing that number for the first time held their breath for a moment in the room. The cameras turned to Patel. His face was pale. It was clearly visible. This is classified information, Patel objected. Congress's access to these documents. Congress has the authority to oversee, Schiff said, cutting him off. In that context, I ask, is this report available? Is there a draft report documenting 47 high-profile individuals that contradicts your statement that we found nothing? Patel was cornered. A draft report had been compiled. Yes, thank you. Schiff held up the document. The FBI seal was clearly visible to the cameras. I'm reading from this draft. 47 high-profile names were identified. 12 politicians, 8 business people, 6 media representatives. The rest are academics, lawyers, lobbyists, and foreign nationals. He paused for a moment. Director Patel, these numbers come from the FBI's own internal report. In other words, your agency's own assessment. And you have repeatedly told this committee and the American people that there were no significant findings in these files. So how can 47 high-profile names be considered nothing? It's no coincidence this video has gone this far. If you want to follow the scale of these stories that you won't see in mainstream media, subscribe to the channel now. Don't miss the upcoming developments. Patel clearly shifted into a defensive stance. A draft report is not a finalized document. The review process involves various verification stages. These names consist of individuals appearing in different contexts. This does not imply a direct link to criminal activity. Schiff waited patiently. How many names are in the final report? Silence. Patel looked at him. He didn't answer. It wouldn't be appropriate to share that with the public. Schiff looked around. At the committee members, the press gallery, the cameras. Pay attention. He's not saying I don't know. He's saying inappropriate. Those two things aren't the same. Saying Inappropriate means he knows there's a number involved. Either the number is very high or it includes very influential names. Which is it, Director? There was no answer. Schiff moved on to a different question, but the core of the issue remained the same. How many agents were assigned to this investigation? Patel shrugged. A specialized team. 10, maybe 11 agents. 10 people. Schiff tapped the table lightly. How many agents did the FBI assign to the 9/11 investigation? Patel didn't answer. Over 7,000 agents. For Oklahoma City, over 900. And you are conducting one of the most extensive organized crime investigations in recorded history with just 10 people. 7,000 agents for a terrorist attack. 10 for child abuse. How do you explain this prioritization, Director? It's not about quantity, but quality. A 10-person expert team. Quality, Schiff repeated. But do you see the contradiction in your statements? You said important files were sent to you. Then you admitted you only read the summaries. Now you're prioritizing quality over quantity. But what did your 10-person team find? Nothing. No list, no accomplices. No accountability. What did this team do, Director? Schiff was holding a different document this time. Are there names in the files? Yes or no? Patel paused. His mouth opened, closed, and opened again. Various names appear in different contexts. He paused. Then he turned to everyone. Did you hear that? He says various names. That's an admission. There are names in the files. So who are they? How many people? In which categories? I can't share that with the public. Schiff smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It's the same story every time. There are names, but I can't explain them. There's an investigation, but I haven't read the files. 47 people were identified, but there are no results. Director Patel, are you running the FBI or a cover-up? Then Schiff brought up the topic of Jeffrey Epstein's death. Patel's body language changed instantly. He tensed up. He leaned forward. He was more cautious and defensive. This line of questioning was coming from an unexpected direction. Did the FBI officially rule Epstein's death a suicide? The official finding is in that direction. Yes. The official finding, an interesting phrase. So what do the unofficial assessments say? Schiff placed the document on the table. Do you know Michael Baden, New York's former chief medical examiner? Someone who has performed or reviewed over 20,000 autopsies. Dr. Baden shared with the public that the forensic findings did not align with the official conclusions. This expert, who has performed over 20,000 autopsies, argued that the physical findings point to an alternative scenario of death, and this view is not unique in the forensic literature. Did the FBI evaluate this expert opinion? External expert reports were included in the file. Including them isn't the same as evaluating them. Filing a document away is one thing. Taking it into account and investigating alternative scenarios is another. An evaluation was conducted, and our official findings remain unchanged. Schiff leaned forward. So, let me make sure I understand this correctly. One of the most high-profile detainees in the United States, someone with the potential to expose many influential figures, and that night, multiple independent systems failed simultaneously. In addition, independent forensic experts presented assessments that contradicted the official findings. How did these simultaneous malfunctions affect the course of the investigation? Director Patel, do you consider it a coincidence that all these systems went offline simultaneously that same night? Patel replied, but it wasn't a real answer. The investigation was conducted in accordance with standard procedures, and the conclusions reached are based on the available evidence. Schiff shook his head. Was it wrapped up like the Epstein investigation? Was it closed off like the client list inquiry? Everything is being concluded, but there's nothing to show for it. Every file closes with the same word, closed. No results, no arrests, no accountability. Doesn't this bother you, Director? Doesn't this pattern give you pause? And then the moment came. And then that moment came. In front of everyone, with the cameras rolling, live on air. Patel's usual composure gave way to a sudden, uncontrolled outburst. His voice came out hoarse and strained. Panic and anger were intertwined. Your goal isn't to uncover the truth. This is an attempt at persecution, an operation aimed not at the truth, but at a political outcome. You're using this process like a weapon. Sit down, Director. Chairman Mark Warner spoke sharply. The gavel struck the table. Patel sat back down. His hands were visibly trembling. There was no confidence in his eyes. He had the look of someone cornered. Schiff watched him silently. He waited. Then he continued. I'll ask one last question, Director. Your answer must be yes or no. I don't want a long explanation. I don't want official language either. One word is enough. Will all the Epstein materials in the possession of the Department of Justice and the FBI, every document, every image, every video, and all the evidence, ever be made public? Yes or no? Patel thought. He weighed his options, did a quick calculation. Some materials will not be shared with the public. Never. The room went dead silent. Schiff shook his head slowly. Finally, a clear answer. He says never. Not in 10 years, not in 50 years. Never. I ask, and I ask this of everyone. Why? Who is being protected? Which names are so powerful that the public will never learn them? Which institutions, which structures, which individuals are ensuring this information remains secret forever? Schiff continued. His voice grew quieter, but his words carried more weight. More than 250 victims were identified in this case. 250 families have suffered profound devastation in the wake of this case. Lives have been turned upside down. Young people have suffered irreparable harm during the most critical period of their lives, and experts have documented that the psychological effects of such cases can last for decades. And here, under oath, you are confirming the following. Certain information from the investigation will never be shared with the public. Certain names will continue to be kept confidential for procedural reasons. Director Patel, on what legal basis do these decisions rest? How do they align with the principle of accountability? And most importantly, what should those awaiting justice from this process think? There was no response. The silence spoke volumes. By the time the hearing concluded, Patel's credibility had been severely shaken. He had claimed that the key files had reached his desk, only to admit later that he had reviewed only the summaries. He had stated that nothing had been found. Yet the FBI's own internal report identified 47 high-profile names. He defended the investigation, yet had assigned only 10 agents to such a massive case. He claimed there was no client list, yet admitted that names were present in the files. He claimed transparency, but confirmed that certain documents would never be disclosed. If you want to follow this kind of content regularly, the subscribe button is right here. Don't forget to turn on notifications, because this story continues. Sometimes, all it takes to ensure accountability is a prosecutor who asks the right questions in the right order, corners the other person, and doesn't give up until they get an answer. Adam Schiff had taken on that role. Kash Patel had nothing left to say, and the word never went down in history as the heaviest statement heard in that room. For over 250 victims, for people who were told they would never learn the truth, and for the truth that will one day come to light. Thank you for watching this video. If this content resonated with you, please share it with a friend, because spreading news like this, ensuring the voices the mainstream media tries to silence are heard, depends on viewers like you.